Hello and welcome to this week's Battle of the Ports, and an unofficial sequel to Tecmo's Silkworm. This is Sales Curve's SWIV, that was first released on the Amiga in 1991. Actually, it was developed by Random Access, but for some reason a lot of people seem to think Sales Curve developed SWIV. Anyway, so why is this the unofficial sequel to Silkworm? Well, you see, Sales Curve published Tecmo Silkworm onto home computers. So in their eyes, this is a sequel, but as Tecmo has nothing to do with this, or even acknowledges it has anything to do with Silkworm, it's unofficial. So what is SWIV? Well, apparently it stands for Special Weapons Interdiction Vehicle, and also short for Silkworm 4, a lethal homing missile used by the enemy. As you can see, SWIV is a 2D vertical shooter, in which the player chooses between using either a helicopter or a jeep at the beginning of the game, and then plays in the chosen vehicle throughout the game. If two players are present, both vehicles can be used at once. Certain enemies when shot drop shield power-ups, which can be either picked up for temporary invincibility or detonated to destroy all enemies on screen. To be honest, even back in 1991, this was a very boring shooter. I know that's going to upset a few people, but just take a look at the amount of amazing shooters on the Mega Drive or PC Engine in 1991. Fast action, pumping music, and 60 frames per second. At least SWIV is full screen, that's a plus. But sadly, the lack of music, low frame rate, and dull game design doesn't make this a classic unless you've never played arcade or console shooters. Next up we have the Atari ST version. It has worse audio and colour than the Amiga, but as far as the main game goes, it's basically the same experience. Only this time, the game briefly pauses every now and then to load in more data. Time for the best home computer of the 90s that wasn't a Windows IBM PC. This is the Acorn Archimedes version. Sadly, like a lot of games on this system, it ended up with an Amiga AGA port. So, as to be expected, this is exactly the same as the Amiga version we just took a look at. Okay, so the big boy home computer versions weren't much fun, but how about the 8-bit home micros? Well, here we go with the ZX Spectrum version. You're not going to believe it, but this is actually more fun to play. It's faster with rearranged stages that for some reason make this a more enjoyable experience. Still no music during gameplay, but hey, at least it isn't a sluggish mess. Sadly, the Amstrad CPC version is a sluggish mess, as it's nothing more than a lazy-ass port of the ZX Spectrum version. It doesn't even have any title music or menu music. How lame. Commodore 64 time with a nice smooth scrolling port with yet again rearranged levels. These aren't the same as the levels found within the Speccy or Amstrad version though. The levels in this port are more in common with the Amiga original. As for how the game plays, well, there's shit all over the place and not in a good way. The game is far more frustrating than fun, and yes, I'm cheating. I've suffered enough so far making this video. Now this is more like it. This is the Gameboy Colour version, which to be honest is more like Super SWIV coming up next. It's the powered up system that's the main difference and quite the improvement, as you now get missile attacks. SWIV on the Gameboy Colour is surprisingly smooth, and having the added music makes the difference, turning a pretty bog standard shooter into something more exciting. Coming out in 1992, the same year as the Acorn Archimedes version, comes the Super Nintendo version. known as Firepower 2000 in the US, but Super SWIV everywhere else. This is what the original was meant to be. Can you believe this is only 1 year newer than the original game? It's leagues ahead, and yet on the Super Nintendo it didn't score very well, and that's because even though it's vastly superior to the original game, it's still an average shooter. Two years later, in 1994, Super SWIV came to the Mega Drive as Mega SWIV. This is the same game, but they rearranged the stages somewhat, with the second stage being what should be the first stage. The main difference in this version of SWIV is that you can select 3 weapon choices at will. The flame weapon is the most powerful, but unfortunately has a pretty limited reach. Audio-wise, Mega SWIV is okay, but the audio driver is quite abrasive, making all the sound effects sound terrible. Let's take a look at all those versions of SWIV running side by side.